I can't hear you. Uh, Gaz says not hearing heck.
Can you hear me now?
Data says try the trucker mic, and that would just turn into convoy.
I think it probably works now. Oh yeah, there we go. It's just like 20 seconds to figure out if your mic's not working.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, off to a beer start. All right. So right now it's Forestine and I. Alex is uh, missing, so hopefully everything's good with Alex. Uh, yeah. So I. Good. Good. Yeah, always halfway tempted to grab the trucker mic at this point. Audio routing is one of my least favorite things on a Mac, probably on a PC too. All right, so we've got a lot of things on the list. Forestine, is there anything that stands out that you want to talk about first? We've got
Oh.
all sorts of stuff on there.
You killed your gremlins. I want to know how you did that.
Gremlins. Okay, yeah. Okay, so my modular behind me that I built, it has been plagued with gremlins for a few months now. I think once I got to a certain scale, it just was angry. It wasn't alive enough, it turns out. So some of the things that were going wrong is the oscillators were very unstable, doing similar to what this one's doing, but that's just because I have it doing something funny right now. Like if I do that, it's fine. But if I turned on my Euro playset with all my Euro rack, this tuner would drop like a few cents in volume, or not volume, in pitch. Uh, I had a really high noise floor. I don't know if you noticed this, but like on some of my YouTube videos, when I'd like hit the pause button, you'd still hear like, I don't know, ocean sounds or something. So all of that stuff I fixed on a whim by I was installing a new module and I figured, what the heck, I should just drill some holes in the back and add essentially I wanted to double the power. So I have two FCUK power supplies inside there, and from everything I've read, you can chain them and be all right. And so I did that. I did it properly. But I'm guessing my wall wart was the limiter, even though it was 2 amps and it wasn't drawing 2 amps. I think that cheapo wall wart, like, it is what it is. So I split them, got more of those wall warts, doubled the power. So there's 2 power cords going into each case now, and everything's magically good. And the noise floor is gone. Like it's not silent. Like if I turn like the gain super high, I can hear like what almost sounds like magical 8-bit radio station or something. I don't even know how to describe it, but I have to really crank it to even hear that.
So good.
You bought legal weed. Good for you. Awesome.
Huzzah!
Yeah, I have some stories about that in Arizona later. That's a different show. So that's how I fixed the gremlins. It turns out all of my problems were just like that was running my my synthesizer power starved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even though everything should work and other people had no problems with pretty much the same stuff, mine was wrong. Moving this so I can like look at the camera better. There we go. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the Gremlins now. Like this has been on since like 8 a.m. or something. So no issues at all. I do have issues with the ATEM Mini being on for that long, though. I guess it doesn't like being on for 8 hours straight, streaming no video. But hey, I gave it 5 minutes a break. Let's talk modular though, like more fun stuff than Gremlins, because I feel like more Gremlins are going to show up the more I say the word Gremlins.
Oh, it's true. I just found out that our outboard mixer has so much bleed from like the first channel. Anyway.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was messing with my mixer and I had nothing going, and I decided to send some audio from my computer through the mixer using the USB thingy, and I noticed that like more than one channel were going up on the mixer, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
So there's some bleed happening there too. I think it's a known issue, and there's a way to fix it. I just need to Google it. It has to do with the normal button in the back that I have to like.
Oh, I could be louder apparently.
Oh yeah.
Do I have to just talk louder?
I think you can adjust your microphone level, or you can just yell if you want, but I think it's kind of late for that. Changes the vibe if people are yelling. Just don't feed the Gremlins after midnight. Yeah, and keep water away from them. Actually, that's a really good point. If I spill water or liquid on this, my Gremlins will multiply very quickly.
Is this better?
Louder, if you can.
Louder. How about that?
That's a little better.
How
Yeah.
about that? Boop boop.
Boom. Perfect. That is the level.
Okay. I unchecked auto now. Okay, it's better.
Cool. Yeah. I promise by episode 20 we'll have this stuff figured out.
It's okay. We'll figure it out before we go live.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I know I wanted to talk about a few things like sound mingling. Let's just do that one because it's at the top of the list. I wanted to talk about sound mingling. Like, what are some good ways to take your sine wave or triangle wave or whatever and make it interesting, whether that's like FM modulation or running it through effects or anything like that, cranking up the gain on a mixer.
Yeah. There was that one Bastille stream where he did like a bunch of different techniques with his little system, and he did like a feedback loop with his mixer. And I have like this really shitty Behringer mixer that I don't use, and so sometimes I do like a feedback loop in that mixer and then plug it into my other mixer, which is quite fun.
That's cool.
Like it often ends up kind of feedbacking on itself and making a weird guitar thing.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's super top of mind for me because earlier today I was fiddling around. I've been jacking my guitar into the modular just to see. And I ran it into, I have like an ears clone, like an input where you can put other sound sources into it. And I ran it into there first, and then I ran it through my Rat pedal clone module, and because I wanted some distortion, I wanted to play some heavy stuff, and it was like really heavy sounding, so I turned off the distortion and it was still distorted, and I realized what I'd done was exactly what you described, where I had the gain up pretty high on the essentially the ears module, and it added its own distortion, which was really actually a nice distortion if you get it dialed in just right. like very bluesy,
Yeah.
light distortion.
And sometimes I do that feedback loop with a distortion pedal in the loop, which
Yes.
is also fun. It adds like a whole bunch of extra harmonics. My distortion pedal is like not even really rectangular. It's like kind of rounded. It was
Yes.
very cheap.
I'm actually really passionate, it turns out, about the design of guitar pedals. I don't have a lot, but I've grown a lot of opinions very quickly recently. So I want to save that for a different discussion. But that's super funny that it's like a round pedal. Like, I don't
It came in a box that said pedal.
know. Perfect. Um, what? Yeah. Oh, running things in loops.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times with this mixer and with there's another littler mixer I have, like the one built on my modular. I don't do it as often with the main mixer because I don't like to touch it very much, except for to like
Hmm.
adjust things. But this one gets like pretty gnarly really quickly. Like I don't know. Sometimes when you run things back in, like if I run a synthesizer sound back into that synthesizer through and process it, like you can get like pretty nice uh, distortion and beef up into a certain point where it just gets like, I don't know, filter crazy or something. I don't know how to describe it. Just gets completely tone deaf, like it loses all tonal quality.
Oh yeah.
This one does that really quickly. It's like really nice, crazy, like in just a fraction of a turn.
I also really like when I did like all of those patchables at once. Discovered mixing CVs in a VCA or like mixing LFOs together. And so I figured out this one where you take an
Oh,
LFO that was like slow and then faster, and then an envelope, and then the envelope like made this weird like envelope shaped thing. And then I put that in the CV of an oscillator, and like it was like that really loud like chopping noise.
yeah,
It's like
you're
the
almost like
mangling.
a DIY maths like add sort of
Yeah.
function, um, without probably some of the limits that maths imposes to make the signal friendly to everything. Like that was probably pretty cool. Um, yeah, that's an awesome. Uh, what was I doing earlier? Um, I was, yeah, so I got these like these things. I think you and several other people recommended them. Once you saw my oscilloscope, they're these little,
Yeah, the wiretaps.
yeah, the wiretaps. So I was playing with that and running stuff through that into the oscilloscope. I don't know. That just reminded me of it, and getting some really crazy shapes from my LFO that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I use the oscilloscope for that. Um, and then the other thing I've been doing is I'm starting to have modules that have like alternate audio outs. Like the local florist has Vibe out, and uh, the Akari has like a Beyond, whatever the hell that is. And it's really fun to plug those into like a filter or something because they're at audio rate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Really
pretty
nice.
cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, that's another thing I wanted to try soonish was making audio rate sounds, like out of maths or LFOs and things like that. Maths, there's that fairly recent video about subharmonics that I want to try using essentially as an envelope follower. So I want to try it as an envelope follower for a few different things, but I think that's going to be a fun way to mangle sound and make some interesting things um,
I
that
was
deviate from the
planning.
sound source.
Have you, have you tried using maths as a crude filter? Because that like does some weird shit to the like put the audio into the audio in.
Yeah, it's if I remember right, you don't actually get your audio out, right? Like you get the maths generated audio out when you do that. Like it's audio rate
It's your
envelope
audio that
following.
has been done, had something done to it. It
Yeah, but it
made it
is really
really
weird.
messy and added like a lot of harmonics to it.
That's pretty cool. I haven't tried that yet, though I should because I've been like a bit filter create. Like the new filter I built is just absurd.
Oh, tell
Um,
me about your new filter.
it's called the Gurr filter or the Funky filter. It's a Look Mom No Computer filter, and it's like it's living right here, 10 centimeters wide, which is
It's small.
fairly small compared to the 20 centimeter one, but it's got character. It's not based on any filter that I know. Like it's not an MS-20 filter or anything. It's more like a diode clipping filter thingy that doesn't do. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a really crazy sound. Like you get this chunky feel to it and almost like stepping to the resonance, even though it's not digital. It's just the way the harmonics are working with it and the way it resonates. It's also got some cool performance things that I haven't seen. Probably exists, but I haven't seen it on a ton of things. Like it's got its own VCA sort of built in, so you don't need an extra VCA if you're using it.
Oh yeah, the Akari has that. It's so handy.
Super handy. It also has an attenuverter, so the control voltage I send into it to control the filter setting, the cutoff setting. I can attenuate, so if I've got something that's the usual like squelchy thing, I can completely flip it and make it bubbly really quick or something like that. So it's pretty cool. I didn't realize it, but I should have soldered a bicolor LED, so I've got to pull it apart and change the LEDs so that it's got both colors when I do it.
Yeah, that's more helpful. I still haven't like tried all the things on the Akari.
The Akari, like I looked it up, and I wish I hadn't, because A, it's Bastel, and I have a thing about the stuff they make, and B, it's like 2 HP too wide, but I really want it, so I may get it and like a 2 HP module compressor or something. I wanted a stereo compressor, but I may sacrifice that for the Akari because I think it sounds really good.
And the overdrive on it, like you can there's like a whole knob just for the input level, and as you change the input level, like the character of the filter changes.
Yes.
And you can like I am still playing with that. It's super fun.
Should I do a quick demo of this filter?
Yeah, do a demo.
All right, let's see. I think I'm gonna have to. Well, let me see how this is all hooked up. I think you're hearing.
I won't hear your demo.
Well, I can change. Well, no, you would hear yourself. You might hear yourself for a few minutes, but that's okay. But you can hear it. You'll be able to hear it. Yeah. Okay, and then turn this on.
Yeah, I'm muting now.
Let's get a note going. Anyway, that's that. Change this to that. I don't know if you heard that, but I hope you did.
I did have to play it in YouTube.
Okay.
It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty rad, dirty filter. It does quiet the sound a little bit, but that's fine. And when I run it into my MS-20 filter and combine those resonance, it gets really funky really quick. So I'm in love with that one.
Yeah, I was looking at that Steve's MS-20 filter because I don't have an MS-20 and I don't need another mono synth.
Don't get an MS-20. You've got
No.
an amazing mono synth without all the hassle or extreme costs or funkiness. MS-20 filters are great. The MS-10 filter on my MS-10 tops that, so I think folks should figure out how to rip that one off. It's similar to the MS-20, but it's gnarlier, and maybe that's just because it's old, but I love it. Anyway, filters.
Robbie was summoned by his filter sense detecting filter talk.
Yeah, I love filters. Schmister has a
Oh, and
filter now, right?
I don't think so. In my stream with Ben this morning, I beat him to noise through a SEM filter, which I was very pleased about. And then we ended with our SEMs at the same time.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I guess. Testing. I think they can hear me. Whatever. I'll just keep talking until someone tells me I'm not.
Yeah. Someone would have said something by now, I would think.
Yeah, I'm sure. Also, for whatever reason, my video is like very stuttery. I think it's the video capture of Zoom, maybe. I don't know.
It doesn't look that bad to me.
Alright.
Schmooster has the 2-pole analog filter from Waldorf, non-modular.
Right.
That is weird. So it's just like a filter in a box?
I don't even know what that looks like. I'm gonna look
Is
that
it just
up.
like quarter-inch? Like,
I'm picturing like a pedal, but that doesn't sound right. So
probably like a
2-pole
pedal.
Waldorf filter. Is it? Like I'm wondering if it's like a rack mount thing or something like that. No, it's a straight up like rectangular box. Let me share my
Screen share.
screen.
Robbie says it sounds okay.
Screen sharing, and my computer is angry. And I'll
Big
share
square
my
box, quarter-inch inputs.
Oops, I need to do that. OBS, there we go. Yeah, it's this weird little all by itself box. I say weird, but
How did you market that thing?
I don't know, but it's pretty cool. Like, if I was gonna make that, I would do similar to what. What was the name of that thing called? There was somebody made a Eurorack module very recently, pretty much in that format, but they made it so that you can get it as a standalone box, very similar to this, or you can bolt it to your Eurorack, just like I guess the Moog and the Behringer products that are now compatible with Eurorack.
Huh.
Moog, does Moog do that, or is it just Behringer?
Do what? Modules?
Well, they make like all of their recent knockoffs have been able to mount in a modular.
Oh, yeah.
Like the
Yeah, you can mount like a Mother 32 or whatever.
Yeah, just very similar. All right, so that's that. That's cool. It looks like a beautiful box. Like it'd be fun to play with. I think I just
I
need
just
to
like
work
don't know
out.
who it's for, and it's kind of odd. It's
Right,
neat.
like and to me, like where does it go? Like that, like where do you put it? And that's sort of what I was thinking when I was talking about pedal design. Is like, who are these pedals designed for, and how do you use them? Because like I see a lot of crazy pedals with a lot of knobs that are just very performable, but they're still a guitar pedal. So like they're designed for like someone to put on the ground where they're not going to fuss
like,
with anything and step on. But like that's not what I like. Those buttons.
Well, like,
yeah.
I have 2 pedals, and I mostly use the Grand Canyon Electro Harmonics, and the writing on it is so small. Like, you have to have it on a desk, and you wouldn't be able to see any of the settings if you were like playing in the dark.
Right. And I've got there's a pedal, the Deep Space Pulsar, which is super skinny. I'm not going to unplug it because it's like a bunch of things. but it takes like a control voltage input and all that stuff. But it's got a slant, like it's got an angle to it facing you,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I think
Like,
that's
how did they envision that being used?
well, yeah, but like usually guitar pedals, if they're on the ground, they're on an angled surface. Like there's usually a pedal board that's slightly angled to make it easier to step on things. And if you add to that angle, it's like even steeper and weirder to use. So, like, is that one marketed to be on my desk, which I'm using it currently at with the tiniest knobs I've ever seen, or
Yeah.
like and then I saw one the other day, which I could not find earlier. I was looking for a long time to find it, but it's a newer guitar pedal, and it's straight up shaped like an MS-20. Like it has like a vertical back, so the button is on the flat part that you step on, but the back has all the knobs, and it's at like the same angle as the MS-20. Like, who is that one for? Like, that's gonna be impossible to see when it's sitting on the floor on a pedal board what the knobs are
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, it's weird. And my desk is full.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually thinking of making a pedal board because I don't like I barely have room for this like little guy, and it keeps falling off all the time. I don't know. So I'll just put it on the floor like it's supposed to be on the floor anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Pedals are funky.
There, yeah. Well, and it's like I keep thinking this delay looper is like a synthesizer. Like I use it all the time. Like it does some really weird stuff. But it's like I don't know, it's like not made in any way that you could actually like have more control than like the tiny tiny knobs that do like so many changes in the things that it does, like the parameters of it.
Yeah,
And then half the time I press something, something starts blinking and then I can't get it to work.
yeah. That's another thing. Yeah, yeah. Pedals. I mean, they seem like cheap or rather inexpensive candy for sound people. Like they're compared to most other things like modular and things like that, they're rather inexpensive. They can get expensive for rarer pedals and stuff, but like you can get like a $40 knockoff metal pedal, like that kind of stuff. And they're I don't know.
Did you read about that thing that was going around and it was supposed to be the chip they're putting in your vaccine and it was actually a metal zone?
Yeah, that was the Boss Metal
Yeah.
Zone pedal. I did read that, and it was probably one of my favorite things I read that day. Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah, so the QAnon people were sending this schematic around, showing that the where this chip is going to live, the schematic of the chip that's living inside of the vaccine, and it was the schematic for the Boss Metal Zone pedal. So whoever orchestrated that deserves a damn medal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Earthquaker Devices. I'd say that's a pedal manufacturer that's like after my heart. I haven't purchased
Hmm.
anything through them because I'm very I have an aversion to pedals. Is the way to put it.
They
Um,
are a bit expensive, but their website is so good. It's got like examples of like a million kinds of synthesizers going through it.
they know who their market is. Like they're
Yeah.
awesome.
When I
Um,
looked up like the Grand Canyon, like how do I use this with a synthesizer? It was just like, do not use this with a synthesizer. I was like, oh, oh,
you'll
too late.
well, it is what it is. Um, Yeah, I've been wondering about that with some of my stuff. Like, am I sending too much voltage through? But like, I'm less worried about it with the cheapo Russian version of the Big Muff pedal I have, and
Mm.
this Rat pedal one. Because the Rat pedal I've seen used in a lot of like modular and other things. I think it can take it, but also I built it so if something fries, I can probably spot it and replace it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. Like, I don't
Well, now I'm sending it through a mixer anyway, through like the send and return. So it's
know.
probably line level now. I
Yeah.
wonder what
Okay.
I'm getting me out at.
Yeah,
Maybe Luce knows it to you. Although she really liked Subjectivize's stream earlier because it had a lot of bells in it.
A lot of yeah. That's probably why Elise likes my music. Is it doesn't have bells, but it has a lot of like high pitched squelchy things that sound like mice. Um, the pedals. I built this thing that holds these two synthesizers just for guitar pedals, to mount up here to like play with them and have them in an easy to reach spot. And then I ran out of desk space, and then I realized this Korg synthesizer fits perfectly on it and somehow doesn't fall off. I don't know how. And this fits on it,
It's
so it
galloped
just worked
away.
out. But now my
So
pedals are elsewhere. Anyway,
that looks quite nice.
it it was a happy accident. I'm really stoked about that Korg fitting so nicely. It's like the exact width of it and everything.
Yeah, it looks like it's meant to be.
Yeah,
I mean, we're using the kitchen table, and it leaves some things to be desired.
that was my first synth studio. Like our last apartment was basically a hallway. We called it Holland as a joke because it was literally like if you had two hallways stacked, that was the whole apartment. Like if two of us like held our arms out and touched each other, like we could touch both walls. That was the whole thing.
Oh.
So the kitchen table was the soldering uh, bench, the music place, the office,
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah, we have a lot of multi-purpose things. I'm
Yeah.
like, then I yell at tiny house shows because I'm like, you obviously don't make anything.
Oh yeah, Robbie. Somebody like there are things to convert line level to pedal level and then back. Like you have to go both ways.
Mhm.
Um, I don't have any of those things. I've seen the circuits around. I could probably make one if I do run into trouble. I guess I'll make one. But for now, I'm not purchasing any pedals, so I'm not too worried about it. Actually, that's not true. I got a guitar tuner pedal on the way, so
Oh,
that one's probably fine because I'm going to use it to
Alex says,
tune.
"Wait, this is happening now?" Yeah,
It's Wednesday, right?
you're streaming this, eh?
I sent him the invite. uh, that's
Oh, one
funny.
thing I really like is, uh,
They're doing it Wednesdays.
it's been Wednesday the whole time.
Oh my gosh. I love you, Alex. You're the best. Um, that's actually the best excuse I could have hoped for is wrong day.
Mhm.
Um,
There was like a really big chunk of time where every time I tried to plan something with my friends, either me or them would be like, "Sorry, I fell asleep."
yes, yes. I know that. All right. Alex, are you going to hop on or should we? Well, let's keep going anyway. We've talked about a good amount of this stuff.
Yeah, you should hop on, Alex.
I was kind of hoping Alex would hop on so we could talk sequencers because Alex has a pretty, I think, diverse set of
Yeah.
sequencers, and I think between the three of us, we have like pretty solid grasp of available sequencing techniques and devices.
Oh yeah, so I was trying to learn polyphase, but like
Polyphase.
at first I thought, okay, this app is too good to be true. I made something that immediately sounded amazing with like two 80s poly synths and my modular and blah 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 blah. And then I cleared it and then nothing sounded good ever again.
That's exactly how an app should be. It makes you really welcome, and then you mess with something and you ruined it. Like that's exactly my experience with Fugue Machine, which is also
Yes,
sort of
I
a
was also
poly.
using
Yeah,
Fugue Machine the other day, but
yeah.
like yeah, like it's supposed to be a generative poly sequencer that makes like related. I don't know. It's also probably my MIDI through situation, which is incredibly saggy.
Ooh, yeah. I think inevitably, if you're using MIDI, we have to talk about MIDI at some point. So maybe that's another episode. But MIDI, like,
I'm super new to MIDI. I'm just like, I'll just try plugging it in and see what happens.
ask me anything about MIDI. I have I have
I don't know what to
almost
ask.
16 channels of
How
MIDI
do?
things going on plus but like there's always a wrench. Like something you buy will mess up everything you have, and you have to redo your MIDI every few months. Like that's what's my experience has been, um, which is part of the reason I got this Swarp sequencer you see here, because it handles up to I think 64 MIDI channels. Two of them were two regular MIDI outs, so I have 32 channels of regular MIDI separated A and B. But the reason I got that is because I had devices like the Volca sample, which takes up 10 MIDI channels if you want to use MIDI with it, until I hacked the firmware or swapped out the firmware for the unofficial firmware. But basically, there's going to be something where you can't change the channel of, and that often messes with things. Like in this case, my Cosmo is actually channels 1 through 4. There's nothing I can do to change that. It is what it is.
Alex,
Alex!
welcome to Wednesday.
But it means lots of MIDI
Well,
stuff.
today's Wednesday, all of a sudden.
It's all right. It's cool. I've been that person many times. Never usually on camera, but.
I don't want to break in. I was actually following what you were saying about like MIDI nutcase routing and shit. So carry on.
Yeah, so like I've got a few things, like there's a few lessons I've learned. Like if it's cheap and it's MIDI, it's eventually going to bite you if you're not careful. So there's a MIDI through box that's passive that you can get. It's probably the only one that's out there. It's really inexpensive, and you'll probably pick it up at some point. It's passive, which means it's not powered. And it will work, but some devices don't like to listen to it, or if you connect too many things to it, like if you fill it up, sometimes that's not enough power and things get missed. So that's at the end of my signal chain, basically. I have it just like splitting a couple other things, and then I have a powered MIDI box before that to split a few things. And I also built a 1 to 10 MIDI DIY thing that I have not tested out because I'm scared of it. Like, I don't want to change all my MIDI if I break something.
Right.
Yeah.
My partner ordered this stuff to make a MIDI gal, which is like kind of related to a mutable instruments thing, I think. But I don't know. I might hate using it. It's like just a little like pie with a screen.
Forestine, do you use MIDI in your setup typically?
Not typically, no. I'm just getting into it and I don't know anything about it, and it's confusing.
Yeah.
But we borrowed these two polysynths that we're gonna have for like probably a year or two, and they're from the 80s. So, but then I also have a nifty case which does have MIDI to CV, but the CV that it makes is usually really, really high, like a dentist drill. And so then I need to get a precision adder because I was using maths, but then the notes kept not being the right distance apart.
Ooh.
But yesterday I made a big ass MIDI through train a couple days ago, where I went from the iPad into the nifty case's USB MIDI, and then the MIDI through of the nifty case into the Juno, and then the Juno into the Yamaha, which is like the saggiest one.
I've got to say, yeah, like there was, I think most instruments around that, like older instruments, have MIDI throughs in them, and then that completely vanished for a while, which messed everything up. Like, but they seem to be making a comeback. Like I'm seeing a lot more MIDI throughs. Like the Micro Freak has a MIDI through. Like the Rample has a MIDI through. Like yeah, it's coming back, and I'm stoked about it because it does simplify a lot of things. Instead of because they're not usually passive is the thing. My Cosmo has two.
I have.
My Cosmo has two.
I think there's something very. I mean, like my experience with MIDI was. This was like this hardware world where I was trying to marry Ableton and my Mac with hardware synths, and initially kind of like in the computer sequencers and clock outs, and then trying to get everything working. It was like you can get there, but it's like, man, it's like, oh my God, like just the little variations of implementations of MIDI start fucking you up. Big star, big star. And I think that for me, this is like why I was so attracted to Eurorack in the first place. It's like, oh no, this is voltage. Like just like
I
it's
do
a
love
it's
how direct that is,
yeah, and it's
except for
like
discovering that some oscillators want 0 to 10 and some want -5
yes,
to 5. And
yes.
I apparently lucked out and got the -5 to 5 ones, and so then I have a lot of things that are just too high. Like the key step is too high.
I'm too high often.
You can okay, so that's another thing about MIDI. MIDI plus, I guess, the controller, right? The controllers that you have get nightmarish. So like the key step I have, I've felt that pain. You can adjust things like that in the key step and the Beat Step Pro, like to a point. Like you can change some of the voltage levels and things like that. But it's a pain. It's always a pain. It's never easy to do. It's never simple. Like my best keyboard that I have, that's in that back corner that you will never see because I can't play the piano very well. It's impossible to do anything with that. And like, there's also a lot of MIDI, like CC messages and program changes and things that get sent without you even realizing it. So, like, let's
Yeah.
say you chain with, I don't know, the micro freak you're using as a through. This has never happened to me with the micro freak, but like if I'm messing with the setting on the micro freak, it could send MIDI out that I'm not aware of to change a program somewhere else down the chain, and debugging that is nightmarish. Um, like
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
hate that stuff, and it's actually one of like again the reason I have this pyramid is because of things like that. Like this OPZ, for example, is probably the best sequencer I own, but I like the instruments in it, and if I'm going to control it, which I'd like to control it with this, it essentially eats up 16 MIDI tracks because it doesn't have to, but like each MIDI track can correspond to one of the instruments, and then there's also a few MIDI tracks at the end, like there's the video sequencer and stuff like that, and how it speaks to the app that uses MIDI over Bluetooth. And so if you change the channels on this or you mess something up, like you end up sending MIDI data to this that you don't mean to, and it
Oh
drove.
no! That was like this morning when I was about to stream with Ben and I was gonna click the allow OBS to record Zoom and I hit deny and then I was like, it's gone. And then I had to ask somebody to help me. Thank you, Chris M.
Now I do suffer through MIDI. Because I don't have Eurorack and I don't have a lot of space for sequencers in my stuff, and I am planning to build probably the 8-step sequencer at some point, in some crazy, probably like I don't know, some crazy symbol or something. But the reason I suffer for it is because I really like to be able to do pretty wild, drastic changes in the sequences. Like if I want to change the sequence on like the micro freak and the Korg at the same time, like I can do that. I have two hands, they both have built-in sequencers that are really nice, but once I need to do that with the drums as well, so that's the main reason I rely on MIDI, is just because I can do these more elaborate things. I've experimented with iPad apps. I've tried it on the computer. I hate the computer because I have to hook up the computer. I hate it on the
I
iPad
mean,
because I have to hook up the
like,
iPad.
the thing is, like here's a like a perspective, which is to say, one of the strengths of MIDI is being able to do and precisely program long sequences of, let's say, harmonic or
Right.
chord type content, right? And
Yes.
look, you can get past even like 32 bars, 64 bars. If you can get to 120, in fact, maybe like, what if you have like this harmonic content that can do like 3 minutes of a progression of beautiful harmonic content? Okay. How do you get that into Eurorack? One. Two, how much of that is important to the way that you're going to play, because a lot of people, including me, like that's just not the way. I don't build songs. Or like we fuck around and then we're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're in for something and then we move and this, that, and the other. But like, but what if you wanted to say, let's do a cover of a tune that you happen to get the MIDI file of? That's a fun experiment, right? Like doing a cover and then just getting the source file of MIDI. And then you go, okay, cool. How do I just get that source file of MIDI to play, let's say, a single oscillator in my Eurorack system so that it's like fire and forget? And what I'm going to do is my game is going to be like, let's say, embellishing or playing around the harmony, and you're making a different form of a cover. There are ways of doing that, but then, you start going deep in the rabbit hole to make that happen. That's like
For
Yeah,
sure.
that's
I'm not super interested in some of the MIDI implementations, like this Yamaha has 16 note polyphony, so you could split the keyboard and have like some cheesy 90s drums and then the thing on top. But like, I would like to just have something play some pads while I go noodle.
Right.
But
Right.
but playing with hooking everything up because I can and I'm learning how to do it.
It
So
yeah.
it is
and
rewarding. I think both types of play styles are really fun to mix and play with. So
I did make a sequence in the key step, like a really simple, like arpeggiated chord,
yeah,
and then I sent that through like everything I own, and that was quite fun. It like got like some of it got like really detuned.
that's awesome. And like, I noticed that too sometimes when you hear like one of your instruments is a little sourer than the other. Um, but like that's one of the things that makes me sort of want to, like, I don't know if I want to own it, but I definitely want to play with a shifty. Like I would love to have an arpeggiator
I
going
just
like
bought a
that, right?
shifty.
Right. Like I want to hear like one note per instrument, and just go through that.
Well,
Um,
we bought a shifty, but right now we only have two oscillators because the grandmother is away and the one I ordered isn't here yet. So it's gonna be a while till I can actually use it. But
you have two keyboards. Just tape a key down, and you've got two more oscillators right there. Or however
can't
many.
use a shifty on those.
Can't you
There's no
pipe?
CD. And those aren't ours, so it's not like we can modify them.
Well, I was just gonna say take the audio out, and just the note out into your VCA, and then use it like a. Anyway, you're right. You can't
Oh,
change the pitch with it.
the one thing I like about the Ikari, I was gonna say earlier, and Monsoon does this too. Any instrument or any module that actually has an instrument in level, like in input level, is so nice. I tried plugging the Junos left and right directly into the Ikari with like a whole bunch of 1/4 inch adapters, and it worked and it was fine, which
That's
was nice.
wonderful. Um,
there are just pointing out, like there's a little bit of a conversation going on
yeah.
in the YouTube chat, which is talking about like sequences, um, and then there was conversation about like I think it was Robbie wanted to talk about the black sequencer, for example.
I, but
We can go there, like
can,
if we want to do that.
can we loop back to that in just a second? I want to respond to
Yeah.
I think it's Robbie's comment about it's harder to do creative stuff like weird shaped LFO through a quantizer, to make a generative melody with MIDI. Yes, but mine can do that. Like this, I don't have good camera enough to show you the screen on the pyramid, but the pyramid does have the capability to essentially you add effects and you can add LFOs that are either synced or unsynced. You could then follow that effect with a quantizer, etc., and get something really funky and weird. You could also chain that to after the quantizer. You can add a scale that you can set like some stranger scales or your own scale or whatever. So you
So
can
you
get funky with it pretty quick.
yeah, but just to make just so I'm tracking here, what you're saying is using the tracker as a quantizer. So using an LFO into
Pyramid.
tracker.
This has its
You
own
set the
built-in LFO
quantizing with your own. Okay,
and its own
so it doesn't have to be an
quantizer.
external LFO, but you're
Right.
using it then as an LFO and then quantizing the LFO into step voltage according to a scale,
Yeah.
and then into one or two oscillators, etc.
Yeah, to go to one of my instruments. So like I could create that generative scale to go to the micro freak, which doesn't really
Yeah,
need that, but you could do something like that. So
and you can do
it's
that too.
possible. It's just not like I don't do that a lot because that's not the type of stuff I tend to do very often because I'm limited in my creativity and time. Um, at least I haven't done it much yet. I've played with it a little bit. But it's also goofy to do. I'd rather do that via modules. Like I think that with voltage is just more fun because you can just get weirder with it. I think you are right. You can get weirder with it for sure. Like I don't think I can control the rate of my LFO on here with another LFO, for example, which is also something I like to do. So with the big modular. Anywho, black
Yeah,
black
I do find like often I'll get like I'll have a sequence and then yeah, I won't know how to change to do something else the way that you can. Like I'm I set up my thing and I'm stuck and then we said they were going to be 45 minutes long and then I'm like, well, here it is.
this is the sequence forever. Yeah, I've had streams like that, and you can tell when I'm doing a stream like that because I'm like, oh, I'll just add some arps to it. It gets really arpy and mellow real quick. Um, yeah, I think that's another flaw of some sequencers. Like this one, I'm I'm stuck with the sequence until I programmed another one, right? Like I can shift a sequence, I can change it completely, but I have to program it first. Like it's not easy to dynamically shift from one sequence into something that like can be more generative really quickly. Like it's not. I have to program it ahead of time, so that's another downside of this kind of in the box. I would call this a computer actually, like computer sequencing, iPad sequencing. They have that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, I look at and the stuff that I've seen, for example, by Robbie when he's performing. You know, I think it's obvious to me that he has some skiboard, nice,
Ski.
keyboard skills, right? Like he knows how to like handle a piano and he plays the keys and there's a thing going on and that's more advanced than I am, for sure. So I have to fake it. You know,
Yes.
I have to like, how do I figure out how to fake, uh, somebody who knows how to play the keys and then knows how to transmission and knows how to like jazz, but like not take it completely off the rails, but keep it in a sensible place when I don't have those skills. And so I'm constantly looking for ways to fake it. That's what I do. Like I'm a fake artist on Eurorack. Like I just figure out ways to fake shit.
Yeah, I think any of the folks that I've seen stream on EMS, like even if they don't have keyboard skills, like they're very adept at their instruments. Like I don't
We're all faking it.
right. Like
Yeah,
every once in a while, I
exactly.
get emboldened and I'm like, I'm gonna play this sequence with my hands. I do like four notes and I'm like, never mind, it's fine.
I've
Like,
I've been practicing keyboard because like I was jamming with my friend Hassan who was in chat. I don't know if they're still there, but like I keep like hitting the keys and going blam blam blam. I'm like, oh no, I need to practice. I took piano lessons as a kid, but I'm so rusty and I don't know what anything's called.
yeah, I'm
But
so rusty
there
on
is
everything.
no, no, no. But I think that one of the things that I'm learning to do is like at least, and it's like this is so much about personal style and where you're at and this, that, and the other. But like, it's one of the things I like about this. One of the modules I've got is this thing that really brings it. It makes it feel like a really nice tactile experience and interface between my exploration and the instruments. Like I know how to like get like the oscillators tune this, that, and the other. Can I? set myself up, but I can start fucking around and experimenting with combinations of tones that it's not about sequencing. It's like just playing the instrument, right? So
Right.
like Lifeform's Pittsburgh controller for me is a really has opened up in a free form way for me how to like just find like a tone that just works with everything. I just like literally it's like the oscillator just goes and there it is. Okay, that's cool. That tone works with everything. What about the next one? Can I find another one that also works? And it's like it's a
choosing
lot of
those things
fun to
choosing
do
those things
that.
is still a skill. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to figure out how do you make noise with, with it somehow fitting in, so that it gives you a little bit of kind of leeway to be able to go as much as little as you want. But like, at least when you're experimenting, at least it's within the realms of harmonic okayness. Like, if that's what you're attempting to do, it's like versus, fuck it. I'm just going to go like a completely off scale note. It's just going to sound ugly initially, but then when you tune in, it sounds flipping amazing. And I think that depends on how many mushrooms you might have.
Well, I mean, I
Um,
think that's a great way to do like one of my favorite circuit patches that I made. Like you can design the little synthesizer patches and stuff like that. Um, it's completely awful sounding. Like when you load it up, it sounds like almost just horrible distorted noise. But I made it so that if you're holding that note and you slowly turn up one of the specific knobs, it'll bring it closer in tune um, to a normal pitch. But at the same time, if you hit that drum track with a side chain on it, it turns instantly into like the heaviest, coolest techno track ever. So like even sounds that aren't like super well pitched can be really nice too.
or just straight up dissonance
Yeah,
can be just insanely beautiful. And that's awesome.
yeah, we're we're way off track, but I love it. Like another thing I
we
like,
had a list.
yeah, I have a. It's just a starting point though to get us talking. Like, like the track you just did, Alex, that doesn't have like a ton of like I don't remember any breaks or anything like or drops or anything like that where you like completely change the sound really quickly. Like when I'm doing patches like that, they're really fun to just gradually change stuff all the time. Whereas sometimes when I make the coolest song in my head that has all these sick drops and things, like I might have done the drop once, but I didn't practice it. So when I stream it, like I might be halfway through and forget which button it is and hit like a different one and go
Mm.
from like center field to left field immediately and be like, huh,
Hmm.
oops, well, I guess we're in hardcore techno from ambient mode now, so cool. Um,
Do you do that thing where you turn on the thing that you planned and you don't hear anything, and then you keep fiddling with it, and then you realize like it wasn't plugged in, or you were turning the wrong knob, and then all of a sudden you blast everybody?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, my
Fuck yeah.
friend,
That's,
I was
yeah.
helping my friend earlier today start with Ableton. They've been using it for a while, and they're like, I can't get it to make noise anymore in this MIDI track. I've even entered the notes manually. So like we went through all this stuff, and I was like, let's just hop on Zoom for a minute. And like the problem was they hadn't added like an instrument to that track. So of course it's not going to make any sound. But like I do that kind of stuff with this all the time, where I'm like, I think something's broken, but I forgot to turn
And you
on the mic
immediately
lock.
think it's broken, and you're like,
Yeah.
no.
Um,
There
yeah.
are so many, but
Usually
there,
it's broken.
but there's almost always things that just don't work as expected, which is actually almost by definition part of the fun of it. Like, because the opposite can happen, which is I expected this very uninteresting, slightly, slight change. And all of a sudden, it's like, holy shit, that sounds fucking awesome. That sounds awesome. Um, so happy accidents as well as tragic, catastrophic mistakes can be all made all within the space of seconds of each other. That's helter skelter right there.
I
One of
think
my
I've
first MS streams, I ended up with this like sparkly pitch shifted thing, and I have been trying to get it ever since. Like I was just like, holy shit, this is the coolest.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, one of the things that I've loved about like just this system is the deviation from feeling the need for presets. Like, I every time I do something like that, like earlier today, I found this really cool, goofy noise that I liked. I was like, I gotta figure out how I can save this so I can make it on. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'll just make similar sounds next. Like it's, I know roughly where everything is. It's not that complex. I may never get that sound again because all the things were like just right. But oh well, like have
Well,
fun.
it's
You know,
ephemeral, right? Like
it's
it's
yeah.
entirely ephemeral, and really, really for me, the only way I think about it is the only way you can really capture that preset is just lay it down on an audio track
Yeah.
and try and capture it and maybe a little bit of a jam, and you stick it away somewhere. If you can, if you're that well organized, you can maybe save it and then come back to it in a digital mix later on as like part of your kind of. But yeah, it's like
This is
what the
my
fuck is
attempt
that?
to save the bit ranger patch I liked for a sequence. Like, I don't think it worked, but I made this whole thing in an attempt to like make a preset essentially.
When I was doing the patchable gauntlet, I was like you're supposed to write patch notes and then post it. And so I wrote these like incredibly detailed patch notes. And then one day on stream I was like, I'm gonna try to make that patch again. And like, no. Like it did not even close to sounding like that. I don't know. Like,
I went through a phase, Forrest, and you reminded me of. Um, this is like when I was right on the early side of me getting into Eurorack, which, by the way, was only last year,
Yeah.
right? Like, which is awesome. But like, I would have like, a small number of modules and what looked to me like an impossible spaghetti situation. And I had a clever idea of like move in from one part of the house out into the garden on a table because I want to just get out in the outdoors, Let's get modular out in the under the blue sky. Let's fucking do it. Right. And so it's like, okay, well, let's go and do that. But like I've got a patch and it's indoors. So what I'm gonna do, I can't like move the whole thing. I'm just gonna break shit. So I lived like meticulously documented every single little cable going from one patch point to the other, capturing and taking notes, right? Of like, well, the filter looks like it's at about 2:37 p.m., possibly 2:35.
That's exactly what that drawing was.
Right,
it's
right.
never
I
the
was
same.
like, and I'm going like, and then I take it out and I reassemble it. It's like, fuck it. It's just not the same. It's just not the fucking same. It's what the fucking hell is going on. And you realize that's just life in modular.
There's like when we got the grandmother, it comes with like the Lisa Belladonna patch book, or like I printed that. And every so often I sit down and I just go through the patch book and try to make all the patches. And I'm like, I remember I really liked this one. And it doesn't they sound different every single time I make them because I can
Mm.
never get them exactly like the picture.
I mean, you can do patch books, right? You can properly like, look, manufacturers have patch books as part of, and that's understandable. Like, because everything's like
Yeah, I mean,
calibrated to work in a certain way. But
they can
when you're patching one thing from another to this, that, and the other, it's like you're never gonna make exactly the same cake. You're never going to make exactly the same biscuit. You're never going to make exactly the same steak ever again.
Maybe you're
It
not,
is what
but
it is. It is what it is.
well
Yes, it's
also
got beef. Yes, it's got butter. Yes, it's got garlic salt and a little bit of like cracked pepper and all the rest of it. But it ain't gonna be exactly the same.
um my mind went blank while you were going on about
well, I can.
oh
Oh, go ahead.
uh that like it'll get you into the general ballpark, but sometimes
Yeah.
some of those patches require some very specific combination of things to make it sound like anything. And so you can be like 2 millimeters off, and then it just doesn't sound like anything.
Yeah, that's like the filter patch I had earlier because I had the filter going into a filter and the resonances were playing so nicely together. And I was like, oh, I gotta show this to my partner, and they were in a call, so um, I forgot. And like an hour later, they were like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I just wanted to here, I'll try to make it again." And I couldn't even get close. Like, it's
Trust
like,
me, it was amazing.
why did you bring me down to listen to this weird, distorted noise? This is not good.
But that's the flipping beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
it
Because
just
it's
made me
like
laugh.
the fact is, like if it were completely repeatable, if it were completely like just switch a button and like go back, like oh, now we're just back into the world of ones and zeros
Well,
and deterministic, obvious probabilities, and like who's interested in certainty?
and I think it hurts. Uh,
Well,
well, I don't
I
think it
mean,
hurts
I like
anything. I think
some
it
certainty.
limits your familiarity with the instrument. Like these the ones I have that have patches. Like I've made some really cool patches, but
Yeah.
like I bet I'd make really cool sounding things if there weren't savable patches. Like I'd be very familiar with it, like I am with that. Like I know what all the things do. I have
Yeah.
new ideas every time I use it. Like these, I'm like, oh, I made that cool patch. I'll just go to that cool patch and use it that I
No,
made
that's
that
fair
one
enough.
time.
No. I'm talking about my ass. You're exactly right. That's true too, for sure.
No, I'm not saying it's a, like. I'm just saying like the patches are limiting. Like I was using this earlier today, and I decided to like just do an init patch and like make something from scratch, and I was like, oh yeah, this can do really cool stuff, and I'm barely scratching the surface. So like,
There are
I don't know.
two patches on that front, like truly savable patches, but not. But it's not Eurorack. One is Stephen Bodson on a Moog Sub 37. Like I fell in love with his sound, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and I was like, flipping heck, man. This guy like sounds amazing, and he knows how to play that instrument. But it's a very specific sound. So I actually bought patches that were Steve Bodson.
Oh,
Not he didn't make them; they were emulations
right.
of his patches on the same instrument, Moog Sub 37. And it was awesome. Like that was awesome. It's like I could start playing around with this, like the same dials that he was messing around with on these crazy tracks, which just sound beautiful. And this sort of like, I had like, yeah, I get that bit. I
I
really
really
do
like what
actually.
Robbie said. Patches are so ephemeral. That's why patching to make good sounds is actually a skill. Because it totally is.
I
Yeah,
yeah.
Like,
You know the instrument,
100%.
and you can learn a lot of stuff just by accident. But another pro of patches on the Micro Freak, I think it's the only instrument where it does it well that I have, or that I'm aware of even. If you go to a patch and then you mess with like the cutoff knob, like let me go to a patch real quick. Sure, this one. And mess with the cutoff knob. I can do that, but you'll occasionally see the save button. Or let me change the camera. Maybe you can see. Yeah, you should be able to see the save button flash when I get to a certain spot. Right there. Like you can use that kind of stuff to deconstruct. Like it flashes when you're at the patch point, so you can use that to deconstruct the patch and sort of learn what's going on because there's some freaking crazy
Yeah,
patches on this
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But it's the only thing I have that does that well. Anyway, patch is cool, ephemeral. It's
But
I,
I mean, like a
but
lot of the fun about the journey, I think, is also then figuring out how to make patches. So you can hear a track. I do this all the time. I look for inspiration by music that I hear, and I go like, can I just try and even replicate that sound with like that thing over there? And I really enjoy like trying to figure out reverse engineer how to make that sound well with what's in front of me, and just try, just see where that takes you. And more than often, I never arrive. my intended destination, but I might end up in other interesting places that I'm cool with this. This is like, oh fuck it, let's go over here.
Another thing I've noticed about modular is the instruments are pretty ephemeral too. Like I don't think any of our instruments were the same a month ago, right? Like mine had different modules in it, that kind of thing, or we add new, or we add another case. Like the whole instrument changes over time. So like not only is your patch not going to be the same, but you might not even have the module you need to make that patch again. So you make it slightly different and get a completely different, unique sound.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed at how much how active the buy sell trade threads are across like the various modular communities.
There's
Some
one
people
patch that
buy stuff.
I'm never going to be able to replicate. Sorry, first thing you were going to say.
Oh, some people just buy stuff to try it, I think. They must live at places where people will actually buy things from them.
I think
Because that's
so.
really absurd to me.
Like if you're in a major city, I think you could probably do that. Like I think almost as like a just a way to constantly refresh your system and swap them out. That's not where I am at. I'm like in the maybe UPS will deliver today sort of place, but yeah.
And I am, will you ship it to Canada, please? Well, they know.
Well, yeah. Let's see. It's been a little over an hour, and I don't want to go too late, so we can wrap it up or not.
Yeah, it's just about midnight here.
Yeah. All right. So I think we can. I know we've pushed it off a few times, but I think we're going to push off the orbs topic until next week. That's going to be the running joke. We're never going to talk about orbs.
Well, I'm sorry, I was not only late by a few minutes, but by a whole day. It turns out. I'm sorry for that. I spaced out on that.
You just sent us the link
My
tomorrow.
apologies.
Like my favorite podcast, Well, There's Your Problem, where they say, next week we'll talk about the Tacoma Narrows Bridge disaster every week.
Well, next week we'll talk about orbs. And there was a really good topic. Let's see, what was the other one? We'll get into what is the nature of synthesis that Schmooster wanted to talk about.
Okay. Bring your mushrooms. I mean, what? Yeah.
But don't do drugs.
No, don't do. No. That's not what I meant. I meant Coco Van.
All right. Have a good night, y'all. It was pretty fun, even though it was a little rocky technology-wise at the start.
It's always rocky. It's fine.
We'll get there.
Fine. We'll get there when we do it live.
All right. There's the ending thingy, and I'll
Good night, all.
play us out.
Best when you hear a nose sound and somebody can tell you.
On the YouTube.
There we go.